Hello and welcome to today's edition of Political Voice. I am Somto Ajamma. There is a lot happening in the political space in Nigeria, but particularly we'll be speaking about two stories, starting with Sanwo-Olu reacting 5 days after the hashtag Igbo Must Go campaign. I'm sure you recall that was very popular on social media and even in pertinent conversations as well. And then, of course, the Sultan CAN urges, that's the Christian Association of Nigeria, urges Bola Tinubu to address end bad governance protesters. Right here in the studio to discuss these is Mr. Henry Ugochukwu, a public affairs analyst. Good evening. Thank you for joining us.
You're welcome.
And of course, we also have virtually Mr. Chukwuma Okoro, a political analyst. He'll be joining us in just a moment. But of course, before we get right into the stories, let's take a global overview of happenings around the world. The U.S. recognized Venezuelan opposition candidate Edmundo Gonzalez. His claim to winning the presidential election against Nicolas Maduro yesterday in discrediting the results Venezuela's National Electoral Council announced. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken stated in a press statement that it is clear to Venezuelans and the U.S. that Gonzalez won the majority of votes on Sunday's presidential election. Blinken applauded Venezuelans for participating in the elections and described the results by the CNE as deeply flawed. Blinken also said Maduro's alleged threats against Gonzalez and opposition leader Maria Corina Machado were an undemocratic attempt to repress political participation and retain power. This comes after Blinken voiced serious concerns over the election results that were announced on Monday. Blinken said he was concerned about whether the results represented the will of Venezuelans and called for the votes to be counted fairly and transparently. ZANU-PF provincial leaders in Bulawayo have refuted claims circulating on social media that they endorse Vice President Constantino Chiwenga to succeed President Emerson Mnangagwa. The rumors emerged after Mnangagwa announced he would not seek an extension after his term ends in 2028. Despite this, some party members are advocating for extending his term until 2030, with rallies supporting the cause. A viral WhatsApp message attributed to retired Colonel Maziane praised Chiwenga and referenced his ties to Matabeleland South. However, ZANU-PF Bulawayo provincial spokesperson Archie Chiponda clarified that the message did not come from the provincial leadership. While Bulawayo province has not endorsed extending Mnangagwa's term, other provincial structures are pushing for it. This scenario recalls the intense succession battles within ZANU-PF leading up to the 2017 military coup that ousted former President Robert Mugabe. We will now go on a short break, and when we return, we will delve into today's topics of conversation. Stay with us. Welcome back to Political Voice. Now we go into full-on conversation. The Lagos State Governor, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, has strongly condemned the recent call for a protest under the hashtag Igbo Must Go. The campaign, which demands the expulsion of Igbo people from Lagos and the southwest region of Nigeria, has been denounced by the governor as divisive and dangerous. The governor's statement comes 5 days after the campaign began and hours following a condemnation by former Vice President Atiku Abubakar. Boyega Akosile, special advisor on media and publicity to Sanwo-Olu, criticized the rhetoric associated with the protest and emphasized that it does not reflect the views of the Lagos state government. Governor Sanwo-Olu has called on security agencies to investigate those behind the provocative post and ensure that they are held accountable. He reaffirmed his commitment to preserving peace and stability in Lagos. And of course, in response, Ohanaeze Youth Council Worldwide a prominent Igbo sociocultural organization, has voiced strong objections to the threat against the Igbo community. Mazi Oku Nnabuike, national president of the council, warned that any attacks on the Igbo people would have serious repercussions. He highlighted that the Southeast community has endured prolonged provocations and is prepared to respond to further aggression. Of course, welcome once again, Mr. Chukwuma Okoro. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Somto. Good evening.
Good evening. All right, the hashtag Igbo Must Go campaign, for lack of a better term, has been rebuked by the president. And it would seem as though this reaction coming from the president is what people have been waiting for, particularly in response to this. But here's the thing, the governor's reaction came 5 days after the campaign was started by a pro-Lagos X account, and hours after Atiku's condemned the move, after he spoke out about it. So my first question, and I'll ask you, Mr. Chukwuma Okoro, is why did a response from the governor take 5 days on this subject that is this sensitive? Speculators are talking about the fact that, well, maybe it wasn't the information, or the campaign was not taken seriously enough as a strong position that was held, or that it is actually a position also held by the people in government, even though the governor says otherwise. So what is your response to that, Mr. Chukwuma Okoro?
So my first response is that I'm not at liberty to speak for the governor. He has he's a spokesperson.
Of course.
But I want to make excuses for him. He is probably overwhelmed by the circumstances of the moment. You know, Lagos is always the hotbed of activism in Nigeria, and if it is not controlled, it has a spiral effect. It could spin out of control from Lagos and extend to other parts of the country. And before you know it, so much damage could probably have been done. So let me make excuses for the governor that probably he was overwhelmed with trying to control what could the protest that could turn out, you know, to be very destructive, not just to Lagos, but to Nigerians. But that said, in as much as the tweet by the rabble-rouser, by the upstart, who is probably farming for impressions, in as much as that tweet is dismissive, I will also not take it for granted that it is empty, even if it is empty. Because, you see, a certain percentage of people, if you look at how Rwanda unraveled, it was such little comments that people didn't take seriously. The Tutsis didn't take it seriously, but it was simmering until the thing boiled over to the top and turned out into the most horrendous massacre the world has known in this century. Okay, in that century, in the better half of that century. It was dismissive. People like the Hutus, people like George Rotugunda were busy propping up that genocide. But others, the Tutsis and the moderates, and even Hutu moderates, didn't take it seriously until it unraveled. Same thing happened in South Africa during the xenophobic era, during the xenophobia. You see, so in as much as I dismiss that tweet from that young man, because it is not going to happen, but we also understand that it has happened before in Nigeria. That was how the carnage against the Igbo started in the north and spread into a civil war that consumed millions of people on both sides of the divide. So I think the young man is probably farming impression, but I also am happy that the former Vice President Atiku has stepped in to douse tension and condemn it in its totality, because it has the potential. It has the potential to spin out of control if it is not properly managed. And I'm happy that Governor Sanwo-Olu, through his aide, has come to denounce and even instructed security agencies to investigate and get to the root of that matter. I also understand that the account has been blocked. That is a necessary and important thing to do. It's also good that Ohanaeze has stepped into the matter, because like I keep saying, in as much as it is dismissive, but we should not treat it with levity. So I understand that, look, people have come in to say this is not good. In as much as it is not going to happen because I don't see it happening.
Okay.
Somto, I'm coming, please, I'm coming. We have a thriving Yoruba community in other parts of the country.
Precisely.
We have thriving Yoruba communities in the southeast, and nobody has harassed them. You know, so it is out of place for a certain young man to take it upon himself to fan the embers of ethnic discord, embers of ethnic tension, to stop tension between two ethnic groups that have lived together for over 100 years plus. It's actually condemnable, and I thank the governor to stepping into the fray at this moment to douse tension.
Of course, thank you for doing justice to that. And this is, of course, another position that people are holding about the fact that, well, the governor may not have seen this as soon as it was put out, but as soon as he did see it, or as soon as his attention was called to it, whether or not, whether it was called to it by the people in his team or by virtue of the fact that the former vice president condemned the move, then whatever the case is, as long as he has spoken out about it, against it particularly, then it counts as a point for him. But I'll bring this on back to you now, Mr. Henry Ugochukwu. People are speculating as to whether this campaign, again, in the words of Mr. Chukwuma Okoro, whether it's dismissive. People are speculating as to whether this came about by virtue of the fact that the Southerners, Southeasterners, that's the Igbos, did not particularly participate in this protest, particularly here in Lagos. And of course, that's one point of view. Another point of view, which you may call opposing, would be that this call or this campaign is politically motivated. People want to use it to tilt the tides of the current protest, which is towards bad governance, to tribal wars against the Igbos. What are your thoughts on that? Are you in support or in opposition of any of these points of view?
First of all, I want to actually commend the Lagos State Governor, Sanwo-Olu, for intervening, even if related. Like my brother Chukuma said, likely he's overwhelmed by the protest issues, and the information came to him late. But as the chief security officer of the state, he has spoken.
Absolutely.
And that is acceptable to everybody. But then I want to point out here, gone are the days, anybody in Nigeria will think that an Igbo man will be used in the slaughter slab anymore. That was the time it happened in Israel. They were armless, they were dealt with, but today it can't happen anymore. Such time is coming. But where do we go from there? What does that go take Nigeria to? Where does it take Nigeria to? We're talking about nationalism, we're talking about unity of a country. And a particular people from one particular ethnic group is threatening the other people. In a state, in a country we say is our own. I want to make it clear. If Nigeria is saying they don't want Igbos anymore, they should say it clearly. I'm not going through proxies. But I thank God for the vice president. I'm not aggressive, but I just want to make it very clear. I thank God for the vice president who immediately stepped into the fore, seized the void, controlled it, and was able to issue a statement before my amiable governor, Sanwo-Olu, intervened too, to give credence to Atiku Abubakar's observation. But then look at it. The security officers ought to go now. Of course, they after that. Who are the sponsors of this guy? There must be people sponsoring this man to divert attention and then make an Igbo man a scapegoat. And you look at Lagos State GDP, what this ethnic group people have contributed to Lagos State. Why is the nationality we're talking about in Nigeria? Why is the unity in Nigeria? Very clear statement. You don't want Igbos in Lagos State, in Yoruba land, or in any part of Nigeria. Make it clear. Unfortunately, for them, the constitution is against it. And they can't try it. Gone are the days anybody will take Igbo man for granted anymore. We believe in Nigeria. We fought the civil war to leave this country. And our brothers say, no, you don't go. And we're still here in Nigeria. So we must be in this country and make this nation work.
All right. Thank you. There's a particular video that made the rounds about a woman who was lamenting about being harassed by thugs that called her Omo Igbo. And of course, she was not Igbo. So coming from that perspective, she had to talk about the fact that these people were harassing her, telling her to go to her own state to go and protest, and even threatening to beat her up. She spoke out about it, and this is definitely in a video that went viral. The same thing happened in the 2023 presidential elections, where there were reports about Igbos being beaten and Igbos being threatened against voting, or if they came out to vote, that they would be beat up on, particularly if they did not vote for the preferred candidate of the Yoruba people. And then, of course, to add to that, there's Benjamin Kalu talking about the fact that Igbos should not protest because they will be used as scapegoats. He said they should be weak for the end bad governance protest and allow those who are strong to go out. But here's my question. Why does it seem, and I'll direct this one to you, Mr. Chukwuma Okoro, why does it seem like there is an undercurrent, and this is not just in this particular Igbo Must Go hashtag protest or campaign, whatever that is. It just seems like historically there has been an undercurrent of hate or apathy for the Igbos in the West, when they're not the only tribe in the West, and they're not the only tribe represented in large numbers in the West. And they're also represented in other places. Other tribes are represented in the Southeast as well. So why does it seem like the Igbos are receiving hate? Why does it seem like that? Is there a particular reason for that, or is this just coming out of nowhere?
That is the truth of the matter. What you have just said is true. The Igbos have been wrongly profiled. They have been targets of unprovoked and unwarranted attack, not just in the West, but in all parts of the country. But I think it has a sociological underpinning. If you study how societies develop, you discover that people who leave their abodes, people who leave their ancestral homes and venture outside are always more prosperous, so to say, than the original inhabitants of cosmopolitan cities. So there is always this antagonism between the indigenes and the commerce. Let me use that word, commerce. So it has happened in history. The Igbos are not alone in this. Even in Igbo land, let me localize it, even from Igbo land. If you go to a place like Aba, Aba is the enclave of the Ngwaman. Aba is the ancestral home of Ngwaman. The Ngwaman is very, very aggressive to visitors. The Ngwaman is very, very aggressive to people who come to trade and do business in Aba. Why? Because most times those people that leave their abode and come outside are always more prosperous. If you go to Onitsha, it happens. The Otu people are always very aggressive against outsiders. Now, let me bring you to the larger national community. It is happening in Lagos, not just in Lagos. It happens in Port Harcourt. It happens in Kano against the Igbos. And if you go at the international level, it happened in South Africa against the Igbos and outsiders who came to South Africa to excel more than the indigenes. That was the era of xenophobia, where they tried to drive even Zimbabweans, even Mozambicans away, not just the Igbos, not just the Nigerians. I said, go to your home, go to your land. And in Germany, in Austria, pre-World War I and II, that was a lot of the Jews. So it has sociological explanations, which goes beyond the hate between the Igbos and others. And before Yugoslavia unraveled, it was the same thing. Kosovo, what happened in Kosovo? Kosovo is the ancestral home of the Serbs, but the Albanians also came there. And at a particular point in time, when Belgrade opened and became more cosmopolitan than Kosovo, a lot of Albanians moved from Kosovo to Albania. That was in the 14th century, in 1338, during the Serbian invasion. So at a point in time, when Yugoslavia wanted to unravel into the Sixth Republic that it is today, the Albanians came back to claim the place against the Serbs. So it is historical. And when you talk about these things, our politicians use it. They know that ethnicity is one of our fault lines, and they try to exploit it against us. Some of my very closest friends are Yoruba people. I'm a married man. And for you to let another married man into your bedroom expresses the level of confidence, the level of trust you have in that person. My closest friends are from the West. I have friends from Kwara State. Bukola, my friend. We are very close. So beyond that, and when we sit together, we ask ourselves, what is this enmity? Where is it coming from? Mm-hmm. You discover that it is politicians that use it to exploit our fault lines and get whatever they want. It's unfortunate that in the character of a president, the current president did say, when he was elected, even before he was sworn in, he had to gaslight the Igbo nation. So these are people who come with nothing, with bags, with cellophane bags, and when they come here, they come and take over every place. It was very unprecedented. So it is such characters, the characters of politicians. But at the mid-level, what happens is that the young men now, because they have influencers, they have role models, they have the change agents that they look up to. Those change agents transmit those things to them, and unknowingly and unconsciously, they begin to exhibit these characters that we see now. So I think at that level, what we should do is to hold our influencers, our political leaders to account. We have a Yoruba man, Faju, who sacrificed his life for an Igbo man.
All right, thank you.
Is there any greater love than that? He said, instead of you killing this man, take me first. It happened. So there should be a handshake between the East and the West, and not an enmity that I will see today.
Well, definitely, that is what you would expect. But I'll bring this back to the subject of the protest. You've actually done justice to this particular subject. But with regards to the protest, people are talking about the fact that, do you think this is prompted by the fact that they are not involved in the protest? Now, let's remember very recently that Bayo Ononuga, the presidential aide, said that Peter Obi and his obedience, who people perceive to be largely Igbos, were behind the protest. And then, of course, there's the fact that Benjamin Kalu and even Ohanaeze have said that with response to, with the fact that this has happened, they feel like what Benjamin Kalu said about being used as scapegoats have basically been proved, given this particular statement or this particular call campaign. For some time, I'm at a loss of words for what to exactly term it at this point. But can they be blamed? Can they be blamed for not wanting to participate in the protest? Given everything that has happened already. Let Mr. Henry answer this one, and then I'll come back to you, Mr. Chukuma.
It's okay.
Thank you.
I want to assume that Mr. Bayo Ononuga was not well informed before he issued that statement against Peter Obi. Igbos have had enough of Nigerians' burden. We have suffered enough. That is why we say we're not participating in this protest. Let's sit at home.
When you say they've had enough, you're talking about the marginalization, the clamors for secession.
From the civil war till death, Igbo has carried the burden of Nigeria.
Okay.
Yet we've invested more. We are saying this president was elected. We said yes. Supreme Court affirmed him as our president. He has just spent almost a year now. And you want us to judge him by this, and you want us to come out and protest against him? We're saying no. Because let him go ahead. We have had enough of a Nigerian problem on our heads. NSAS, go and have your analysis. You see that many Igbos were killed, unnecessarily. Look at this scenario now. It just started now. Somebody from somewhere have said, Igbos must go.
Yes, it literally happened on day one of the protest.
Igbos must go. You see, there's this innate enmity, anger, angst against the Igbo man. Why? Because of the way they prosper. Because they are very, very industrious. And they are expanding the horizon in terms of enterprise. Other ethnic nationalities are not even happy. How does Igbo man succeed, even on the dry ground? These are things that they are put on the table. They will try to examine, evaluate what is the secret behind this. And then you want me to come and protest so you can loot my shops again. You want me to come and protest so that you cannot call me what name you want. You want to degrade my population anymore again. Because that might be your calculation.
Which is in line with the scapegoat's point of view.
I said, no, I'm not protesting. Let's give this man more time. And you're saying, no, I must protest. No, you can't try that. You can't do that. We're not protesting. I showed you a video where in Enugu, my people are protesting. How do they protest? We're taking a bottle of beer. We're enjoying ourselves. We are watching. So we don't need to protest. Let's give our president more chance. More time, please.
All right. Some might interpret that to mean that you are in support of this particular government. I want your thoughts on that before I go back to. Do you fully support this government? Because again, this is a stance that is out there. This is a position that people carry, that maybe they're not protesting because they support the government and they are at peace with the government's policies and performance at the moment.
When it comes to support, my vote is just one vote for him. It does not change the dynamics.
Of course, but now, again, this is what they're talking about. Do you agree?
The Supreme Court has affirmed him as my president. I am obligated to align by that judgment. He's my president. I may not agree with his policies.
Of course.
Mine is to constructively advise him if I have the access to the channel.
Okay.
But I'm not for the protest.
All right.
Igbos are not for the protest.
Igbos are not for the protest.
Yes.
I'll come back to you with this one, Mr. Chukwuma. You wanted to respond to whether or not they can be blamed for not wanting to participate in the protest.
So, you see, the thing is, I think there's a misinterpretation somewhere to say that the Igbos are not in support of this protest. The Igbos did protest yesterday. They stayed at home. They locked down their shops, their businesses. And it was a symbolic expression, you know, of an alignment with this protest. But you can protest in very many different ways. The Igbos have been in protest for the past 3 or 4 years. Every Monday, they lock down their shops, you know, and stay at home. And say, we want a better Nigeria. How do we get a better Nigeria? Fight insecurity. Releasing Nnamdi Kanu, who is unjustly held. Conduct a referendum for us to decide whether we want to remain part of this union or not. All these are parts of protest. You don't have to roll out in the streets and start chanting a war songs or whatever.
But are these means of protest, as you've explained, are these means of protest directly linked to the current protest and bad governance, or particularly with regards to secession, which is where Nnamdi Kanu and IPOB comes into play?
You see, part of the demands of the plan organizers of this protest is, one of their demands is that Nnamdi Kanu should be released, that there should be a political solution to his problem. You know, so, and I think Igbos are in support of that, and they're expressing it by sitting at home, by locking down their shops.
All right.
And so, let me even make a clarification. Even the people that are protesting are in support of this government. If you chastise your child, it doesn't mean that you don't love him anymore. The protesters are in support of this government. Igbos are in support of this government. What we are simply doing is ask the government to be what it promised to be. The government promised us renewed hope. The government said it was going to make our lives better. This government said it was going to give us electricity in 6 months. This government said it was going to build refineries. The FPC government said they were going to give us agbado. They were going to give us surplus food and everything. And when we don't find these things, we ask this government, please, Mr. President, how do we get these things? Can you come and give us these things? That is the essence of the protest. Nobody wants to end this government. What we want to end is bad governance. And it goes beyond the office of the president. It involves bad governance at all levels. People in Maiduguri are not coming to Abuja. They are protesting before their governor. People in Kano, people in Cross River, people in Port Harcourt, they are not coming to Abuja. They are protesting before their governors. Does it mean they're asking the governors to go? No. What they are asking for is good governance at all levels, local government, state and federal government level. So let's be very careful how we put this narrative out. You know that even the protesters are not, nobody's against President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. He is our president. No matter how he got there, the Supreme Court, which is the final arbiter in that matter, said, look, this is your president, and there's nothing else we can do than to support him. What we are simply doing is asking him to be what he promised to be.
All right, thank you very much. And then, of course, Ohanaeze Ndigbo has also, there are reports that they are to meet with the Lagos State Governor, along with the leaders of the Pan-Yoruba group, Afenifere, over what they're calling the quit notice issued to the Igbos living in Lagos and other parts of the Southwest. Ohanaeze says they intend to get the governor and the Afenifere leaders to commit to guaranteeing the safety of the Igbos living in Lagos and the entire Southwest. And they want the Afenifere leaders to advocate for the protection of the Igbos and in Lagos and the entire Southwest. What should we expect from this meeting? Particularly because, again, the governor has denounced that this came from his team, and this is a view that he holds. So what should we expect from this meeting? Is there any guarantee to the safety of Igbos across the Southwest?
I'll start it this way. This is, I think, to the best of my knowledge, this is the third time the Igbos are asked to leave Lagos, or by any means, quit notice the Igbos. Even the people who are coming there, Ohanaeze and the Afenifere leaders coming together, should actually sound it properly and better in a language that the people understand. These things have spiral effect. I have my child, my own son in the house, and they're telling people should go. I'll come back to my house and tell my son, this is exactly what the Yoruba people are telling me. I may not be there tomorrow. Already, he has already gotten that in his heart. Then there will still be this discord between these two ethnic nationalities that are living together. We are doing a generational, I don't know what to call it. We are trying to poison a generation that's yet to come. I want these Yoruba leaders to sound to their generation that what they're planting now, they may not ripe by now, maybe okay by now, but in the next future, when I will not be there, they will not be there. There will be ethnic rivalry, serious ethnic rivalry between these two tribes. And nobody knows when it snowballs, what is going to come up under a very full conflagration between these two ethnic nationalities. I don't see why this kind of seed of discord should be among these people, these two ethnic groups now. Then Ohanaeze coming together with it to discuss about it. It's just a dress rehearsal. I look at it, a dress rehearsal.
Okay.
The substance is for the Yoruba Obas, elders Obas, to go back to their homes and call their people to order. If that is not done, it remains a political issue. But then find out, investigate. Who are the people sponsoring these people? What's their motive, what's their intention, what's their objective? What is their focus? What they actually want to achieve with this? These are things that should be unraveled for the people to see and know the direction this thing is going. Because it happened before. It happened again, the third time. I don't know how many times they will slap a child before he knew that he must cry. It's going to a point where it might not be controllable anymore by the two ethnic groups.
You know, let's talk about this because you've just mentioned that what does the government intend to actually do about this? And this is a question that is on the lips of a lot of people. Atiku clamored for security agencies to investigate this. Peter Obi did the same. Even the Lagos State governor has done the same. But let's be honest, is this something that's actually going to happen? I'm directing this one to you, Mr. Chukwuma. Is this something that's actually going to happen? Particularly with reference to the fact that in the previous 2023 presidential elections, I mentioned this earlier, that there were Yoruba people, there were videos of Yoruba people, Yoruba thugs or hoodlums, call them what you will, out there threatening Igbo people that they should not vote, and if they want to vote, they should go to their own states to do that. So there's a lot of narrative already on ground, and this is why it's an unhealthy foundation for this kind of campaign or dismissive campaign, as you've called it, to even be held in the first place. So will security agencies, will investigations actually be done, and will people be brought to book for, if not anything, for this particular word?
So the truth of the matter is that I share concerns, the concerns that my brother Ugochukwu has expressed. They are real. They are real. You know, like I said, when I started, I said, if you ignore these things, as dismissive as they are, if you ignore them, they have a tendency to boil over, you know, if you don't nip them in the bud from happening. And I'm happy again that Ohanaeze and Afenifere are meeting. You know, it's a tripartite meeting between Ohanaeze, the Afenifere, and the government. And mind you, the staunchest supporters of P2B are from the West. You can talk of Pa Adebanjo. You can talk of Dele Farotimi. You can talk of Aisha Yusuf and a whole lot of Yoruba people who are in support of P2B. But like I said, a certain percentage of renegades, a certain percent of renegades who are overzealous in acting out these things, they are the ones that cause the problem. Even as much as they are in a small percentage, we don't have to overlook it, because at a point it could boil over. I keep using that word, boil over, because it has happened elsewhere. Even in this country, it has happened. But I'm not sure at this level of our development that anybody will allow such a thing to happen, because it is going to be mutually destructive.
I'm going to interrupt you there, Mr. Chukwuma. Pardon my interruption. A representative from the Ohanaeze has talked about the fact that the governor should bring these people to book, because if he doesn't, and this actually boils over, I'm using your term now, that the Igbos will not take it lightly and they would reciprocate, they would respond. And of course, we already know where that's going.
Yes, but of course, they will reciprocate because they have been reciprocating. Yes, like Ugochukwu said, it won't happen again. The Igbo nation will not sit by and watch any set of people take them to the abattoir again. It wouldn't happen. But sometimes the body language of the government also suggests that, look, there might be in tacit support of what is happening. So that is where the mix comes in. Look at the Ezendibo, Fred Nwajako, who just made an open statement, and that man has been held in detention for more than 1 year, even when the courts have made efforts to grant him bail. And politically, he is held in detention. So when these things happen, you begin to see the body language of the government looking as if they are toeing towards the fancies of those renegades. And that is where it becomes very concerning. That is where it becomes very concerning. So what we need to do at this point, if you talk about security agencies, that will not happen.
You don't think there'll be an investigation into finding out who posted that? Yes, they pulled down the page, but what else happens afterwards?
So what investigation do you need to do? Everybody knows that young man. The government knows him. But they are not going to act beyond pulling down that page. That's what I'm saying. So when you see such actions, you tend to believe that the body language of the government suggests that they are in tacit support. Like I keep saying, I also have my sympathy for the people of Lagos. In a situation where you see outsiders come and probably take over everything that you have. It is not just the Igbos. It is not just the Igbos. We have Edo people. We have people from the South House who are major stakeholders in Lagos, in the Southwest. But unfortunately, because of the high population of Igbos, they are always singled out. That is where the problem comes. And the point is that at this level, what the government needs to do is to rein in those detractors, people who are purveyors of this hate, of the hate speech. The purveyors should be held to account. Unfortunately, we don't see the government doing that. So my takeaway in all of these things is, look, in as much as I keep saying dismissive, probably the young man is finding impression to earn money in social media handle. It is not going to happen because the Igbo man is not living anywhere. The Yorubas are in the southeast, they are in the south-south, they are in the middle belt, they are in the north and everywhere. And if you ask them to go, that means you want to divide this country. And if you want to divide this country, all well and good. So I expect the Obas, like you said, the influencers in Lagos to rein in these people and say enough is enough. Nobody is an island. You also have communities in other places and nobody is threatening them.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Chukwuma. We have some comments on our YouTube channel where this is airing at VOP Live. Of course, you can go there to stream and watch as the program progresses. But of course, we have some comments that we would read on this one. Somebody is saying, Too Cool is saying, not only Igbos, Fulanis and Hausas must leave Yoruba land. This is another point of view saying they must, other than Igbos, these people also must leave Yoruba land. Alejo Oladokun is saying this protest is overdue. This is the right time to tell the politicians that people's power is the strongest with regards to the hashtag End Bad Governance protest. We'll talk about that in just a second. And then Oyewumi Shogo, who is Yoruba, is asking, why should Igbos leave Yoruba land, please? And then, of course, there's Yoruba TV, who is saying, let them think very well before what happened in 1967 to 1970 will happen to them. Let them not joke with Igbo. Igbo people are not smiling. I think that is intended to say smiling. So I'll come to you now, Mr. Henry Ugochukwu, on some of these thoughts. This response saying Igbo people are not smiling, it goes back to what I said about the fact that Ohanaeze is clamoring for peace, because if there is not, Igbo people will feel the need to retaliate. I want your thoughts on that. Of course, Mr. Chukwuma has done justice to that, but what are your thoughts on that very briefly before we talk about the protest itself currently? We don't have much time, so let's quickly
You read out about 3 responses here.
Yes.
But I want to pick the first one before I go to the last one.
That not only Igbo people should leave, but also Fulanis and Hausas. Okay.
Yes. So I want the person who posted this thing, the man who tweeted that Igbos must be Igbophobic tweets. I want him to really tell us officially
what he has.
No, he should be courageous enough to go to national television and tell Igbos to leave Lagos, to leave Southwest. He should be courageous enough. It's not enough on the online stuff. He should be courageous enough. Or come to Oshodi, come to any park, raise his banner with his people, and be courageous enough to tell us to leave. Then the other guy talking about Fulani needs to leave and needs to leave. Please, that's equally good for us. If the solution to the problems or the burden of this country is for us to be unburdened, there's nothing wrong with it. They should come and tell us, Igbos are ready to stay in this country for the next 200 centuries. But if the only solution in this country is for us to unburden, Germany, Austria was part of Germany before. Yugoslavia was just a big country before Croatia, Albania, all this one came out of it. Soviet Union was USSR before. 18 countries, Baltic states left before that.
And when you think about it, pardon my interruption, this is what Biafra is clamoring for. This is what IPOB is clamoring for. This is what Sunday Igboho with the Yoruba Nation is clamoring for as well. So if this is the solution, are you saying this is what we should just do?
I am just putting it to Nigerians. If that's a solution, if that will stop this ethnic hatred, if that will make the black race proud as a race in Africa, in the world, why not?
So make everybody just separate.
If that's what they want, for as an Igbo man, I want a strong, united, prosperous Nigeria. But if other ethnic groups want Nigeria to unbundle,
okay,
we cannot say no. We can't tell them no.
All right.
They should lead the way.
This is definitely a controversial point
They should lead the way.
And I would love to have your thoughts on that, Mr. Chukwuma Okoro. There are more comments talking about, is it not ironic, the deliberate attempt to hinge the fallout of this protest on the Igbos? This is, again, going back to what Benjamin Kalu was talking about as using the Igbos as scapegoats. So I would like your final thoughts on this, because I want to also talk about the need, or at least the call for the president to speak to the people, to address the people, particularly with regards to this protest. I want your thoughts on that as well. But let's wrap up this. What should we expect going forward? And is this a clamor that Lagos and the governor and security agencies should take more seriously?
The government, the governor, and the good people of Lagos State, and Southeasterners, Igbos in Lagos, and outside, and people from other regions who reside in Lagos State should take it seriously. You know, I think it is in the best interest of Nigeria that we remain one. It's in the best interest of Nigeria that we remain one. Globally, there's a functional aspect of politics which talks about integration. You know, the European, what we have, we used to have a country of Europe. Now we have states of Europe. It's like Europe is coming together. We have the European Union with about 26 countries who have the same currency, the same foreign affairs, the same transport system, the same economic system and everything. You know, there's a global level of integration. You have the BRICS nation that are coming together. You know, you have regional economic integration. We have ECOWAS as a group. You know, we have SADC, SADC. We have IGAP in Central Africa. So all of these things, because of the continuous homogenization of society and economy and globalization, it is better for us to remain one. So what we should do is to galvanize the support. Let us work together as a people to remain one. Nigeria is better, bigger as one country because we have a market. We have the potential to roll and rule Africa. We have a potential market that will be the best in Africa if only we work towards this unity. So all this talks about go, 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 it doesn't help anybody. It doesn't really help anybody. And about the call on the president, I think it's rather late. You know, the Sultan is called, Khan has called, and these people are acting as people who have taken money. Why is it that it's now that they are calling on the president? When they had a meeting with the president, why didn't they ask the president to address Nigerians? You know, so they're acting as people who have taken money. That's the only word I can use now. So it's late. It's a little too late for them to say that. But like they say, there's no wrong time to do the right thing. I expect the president to come and address Nigerians. If he has at this moment, I don't know. If he has, I don't know. The appropriate thing to do is, if there are 10 demands or thereabout, just meet one, just one. Return for subsidy on fuel to take care of about 4 or 5 of the others. And this restiveness and everything will calm down. We support our president. We want a better Nigeria and all of that. So it is right time he comes and addresses Nigerians.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Chukwuma Okoro. I'll take that as your final thoughts on this particular one and come to you, Mr. Henry Ugochukwu. So, Mr. Chukwuma has talked about the fact that he doesn't think it's not too late to do the right thing, but he thinks it's just a little bit too late for the president to come and address the citizens. Do you think that the fact that maybe he doesn't have any solutions, the fact that he doesn't have the immediate answers to the demands of the current protesters that are saying end bad governance is the reason that he has not come to talk to the people?
Yeah, I'll say it clearly that my president have the answer, but he has not been advised properly.
Oh, so this is your perspective?
Yes, he has not been advised properly, and his aides are not telling him the truth. I said it some time ago. They're not giving him the true picture of what's on ground. What are the demands? Start from one. First subsidy. The very first day my president was inaugurated, the bold statement he made was, first subsidy is gone. My president is strong enough, he's big enough, he has the power, he has everything he needs to take the same bold step to say, I am your servant. Now he's the servant of Nigeria. But he's my president. I'm not serving you. Now, see, let me recap here. It cost Charles de Gaulle, when there was a revolution in France, bread was increased, bread cost it. Charles de Gaulle, when people marched to the Ellis Palace, Charles de Gaulle ran away from the palace. Why? He said the blood of any Frenchman or woman is not worth no political ambition. He left. Now, this is not violent anyway. Anyway, I'm not coming to that, but I'm talking about leaders. Mm-hmm. My president is a leader. I know he's a leader. Me, I know he's a leader. He can do it. At that time, I said he should come out from that Olympian height where they put him so he doesn't see us properly. Come down to our level and address this thing. First subsidy alone, first subsidy. The same boldness he used, the same power, the same authority he exercised that same day, he can still use it and address Nigerians.
So now, once that is done,
the past buttons will crash down.
Addressing Nigerians is not particularly the issue. It's addressing Nigerians with immediate solutions.
The solution I'm going to tell you, just first subsidy.
So you're saying just first subsidy will have a ripple effect? Bring
it down to at least 300 naira.
And then we can begin conversation from there.
And then let us have regular electric supply.
The demands are going up now.
No, just to do this first one, this one happened.
All right. So regardless of the fact that the protesters are still out there, today is day 2. Tomorrow is day 3. We do not know how that will go yet because, of course, the day has not arrived. But given the updates from day 1 and day 2, it calls for more engagement from leaders and as well the president, just as Mr. Henry Ugochukwu has said that it's not too late. Mr. Chukwuma Okoro has also said that it's not too late. As regards the subject of Igbo Must Go campaign, the point of view right now is that it should be taken just as seriously as the campaign was put out, regardless of whether it's dismissive or whether the president, or whether the governor rather, has denounced relationship or meaning to that particular campaign. There's one more comment that is imperative that we read before we go. Okay, this one says, and this one is coming from Lawrence Honora, who says, is UAE not one country? How long can we continue to defend our houses? Let us go back to our stage in 1913 before all this madness. So, of course, that particular subject, again, is very debatable. And, of course, there are a lot of layers to that conversation. So if we begin now, I don't think we'll end today to begin to unbundle, in the words of Mr. Henry, that particular conversation. But, of course, the protesting is still going on. Hashtag end bad governance. And we have correspondents out there. And as the protest continues, we'll bring you more updates, of course, on VOP TV Live. Remember to follow us across all our social media platforms at VOP TV Live. Peaceful protest is what is being preached because, of course, if the government will hear the clamors, it's important to approach the table peacefully. Thank you very much for joining us, Mr. Chukwuma Okoro. Thank you for joining us this evening.
Thank you for having me, Somto. Enjoy the rest of your day.
You too. And, of course, thank you, Mr. Henry Ugochukwu, for joining us.
Thank you so much. Peace, peace, peace I want.
Most definitely. Thank you once again. The Political Voice will make a return next week. I am Somto Ajamma. Good evening.